Hi everyone and welcome to today's video where we're going to look at Othello Act 1 Scene 2. So in the last scene we heard about Desdemona marrying Othello. We heard a lot about Othello. We saw the imagery that was given by Iago and Roderigo and Berbanchio, and it painted Othello in a very bad light. This is before we came to meet Othello, which we will in Act 1, Scene 2. And we see a very different person to the one that was described in the first scene. Okay, so we're just going to do a quick summary. It's a short scene. There's about 5 slides here, and we're going to go through the key points. So, Iago tells Othello about Berbanchio. So, Othello was very quick to leave Roderigo as he went to talk to Berbanchio. So, he goes back now to report back to Othello, and again highlighting that he's on Othello's side. Iago rushes to tell Othello that Berbanchio knows about the marriage and that he wanted to kill him because of how he spoke about Othello. We see how convincing he is when lying to Othello. So he tells Othello that Berbanchio spoke about him badly and that he wanted to defend his honour and he wanted to kill him so badly. Okay, so he's again these outward shows of loyalty that he's trying to show to Othello to show that he's not as he seems. Iago begins to question the stability of Othello's marriage by telling him that Berbanchio will try to get the marriage annulled. So he asks the question about the stability of his marriage. He's sowing seeds of doubt. Is it a stable marriage? Othello is adamant that he is deeply in love with Desdemona and tells us that he comes from a royal family, so class is not an issue, being from men of royal siege. So here Othello is very confident in his status within Venice, that he also comes from royalty. Now, it is of Moorish royalty, and we see as we go through the book that it is not seen by many, especially by the likes of Berbanchio, as being of equal status. But we see the confidence of Othello and the way he carries himself. In the distance, lights emerge, and it is Cassio who has come to tell Othello that the Duke needs to see him. So Othello, we see how important he is to the Duke. There's an issue with the Turks, and Othello is the person that he really, really wants to see. Okay, before he gets to see the Duke, Berbanchio, armed with Roderigo and a couple of other people, confront Othello. As Othello gets ready to go see the Duke, Berbanchio and Roderigo enter the scene, and Berbanchio accuses Othello of being a thief, so he's accusing him of stealing his daughter. They draw swords, which shows just how tense the situation is, and that the men of this era will use violence if necessary. Now, again, you have to see what Iago was doing here. Iago, intent on showing his loyalty to Othello, challenges Roderigo to a duel, again highlighting his devious nature, because we know, we saw in Act 1, Scene 1, that Iago and Roderigo are working together. Okay, so this is all for show. Berbanchio accuses Othello of using black magic and says there is no way that she would have shunned the men in the city to end up marrying someone like Othello. Run from her guardage to the sooty bosom of such a thing as thou. Highlights the issue of race here. Basically, there's no way she would have run from the elite of society here in Venice to your sooty bosom. Again, the sooty reference to his black skin, and as a thing as this, someone as black as you. Okay, so highlights the racism within the text here, the way in which Berbanchio looks at Othello because of the colour of his skin. Othello responds to Berbanchio in a calm and dignified manner, saying that he has been accused of some serious crimes and that he would like to clear his name. Now, if you think about, he was described as a horse and a ram in the previous scene, and here we see a calm and dignified person, someone who is to be respected. Every time Othello opens his mouth, he brings calm to the situation. He speaks in a really dignified way, and especially for someone who is mainly known for his deeds on the battlefield. He's definitely not what he was painted in the first scene. Berbanchio is informed that the Duke is waiting for Othello and that he is also required for a meeting. Berbanchio agrees to go with them to the Duke, who he says will take his side. Now, a very important quote here. For if such actions may have passage free, bond slaves and pagans shall our statesmen be. So he basically is saying here that Berbanchio believes that people should know their station and that Othello is not worthy of marrying his wife. So if such actions may have passage free, so if people like Othello get away with what he just did, that soon that their statesmen will be bond slaves and pagans, and that's what he believes Othello to be, that he's basically a slave and a pagan, so he mightn't have the same religious affiliations that those in Venice had. Okay, and we'll see later on the stories of the cannibals and things that Berbanchio was intrigued by. He's now using against Othello. Key points. Again, we see just how cunning Iago is when he tells Othello that Berbanchio knows about the marriage. He convincingly tells Othello that he wanted to kill Berbanchio. Now, again, I should have mentioned this, the playwright is making use of dramatic irony here. So we, the audience, know what's going on, but Othello doesn't. And you actually feel it's pointing, like shouting at Othello and saying, these guys are out to get you here, you need to stop trusting them. And that's what dramatic irony does. It causes the audience to be more in touch with the play, to have stronger feelings. It's used in films, it's used in soaps and dramas. It's a very, very good technique, and one in which you'll be able to write about in your essays. Iago questions the stability of Othello's marriage and also challenges Roderigo to a duel. He is sowing seeds of doubt in Othello's mind while highlighting that he is a loyal servant. We see the attitude of Berbanchio towards Othello, highlighting the problem of racism in the play, and it's going to be a theme throughout the racism. We can also see how calm and measured Othello is in the scene, showing us why he is such a well thought of general. Okay, so that's the key points in Act 1, Scene 2. So you should be well up to date. If you keep going through the scenes and knowing the action of what is happening. As I say to students, you don't need to know everything that was said. You don't need to be able to translate every single word. If you know what has happened, the key points, you will be fine. Act 1, Scene 3 will lead us into a much longer scene. It actually takes us to the end of Act 1, where a lot of the conflict is laid down and a lot of the seeds are sown for future conflict within the play. So that's Act 1, Scene 2 done. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much.